Welcome. Today we're taking a deep dive into a really significant idea, mother hunger.
hmm
This comes from Kelly McDaniel's work, and it's crucial to understand we're not talking about, physical absence
Right.
necessarily.
It's more about the emotional side of things.
Exactly. The impact of emotional unavailability or maybe inconsistent care from a mother figure in childhood. Our source for this is a summary of McDaniel's book.
And it's a topic that can really hit home for a lot of people. You might recognize something in your own life or maybe in someone you care about.
Yeah, definitely. So our goal here is to unpack some key insights from McDaniel's framework to understand these wounds, which are often, well, invisible, right?
Totally invisible. And that brings us straight to one of her core points, the silent wound.
The silent wound. Okay, let's get into that. What does she mean by silent?
Well, McDaniel argues that emotional neglect, this lack of emotional connection or response, can be just as damaging, sometimes more so,
Yeah.
than overt abuse.
Really, even if it's subtle.
Yes. Even if it's subtle or, completely unintentional. Imagine a child, maybe they're reaching out for comfort, for validation again and again.
And they're met with
Right.
indifference.
Or dismissal, or maybe the parent is just too preoccupied. It's not necessarily malicious, but that consistent lack of attunement. It creates this really deep sense of, like, invalidation, a feeling that your needs don't matter.
Oof. And how does that play out later in adulthood?
Well, according to McDaniel, this early deprivation can lead people to sort of chase unsafe love.
Chasing unsafe love.
Yeah, that deep longing for the connection that was missed. It can unconsciously drive people towards relationships that actually mimic that childhood dynamic.
Because it feels familiar.
Exactly. Familiarity gets mistaken for intimacy, even if it's a painful familiarity. Think about patterns like always ending up with partners who are emotionally distant or unavailable.
That makes a disturbing amount of sense. Okay, let's shift slightly. What about the inner critic, that voice inside that can be so harsh? Does McDaniel connect that?
Oh, absolutely. This is such an important piece. She suggests that harsh inner critic, it isn't necessarily your true voice assessing your worth.
It's not. Then what is it?
It's often an internalization, like an echo of those unmet needs. It's the voice of that childhood feeling of not good enough that got locked in.
Wow. Okay, so things like perfectionism or maybe always trying to please everyone.
Yes, precisely. McDaniel reframes those. They aren't character flaws.
They're not.
No, she sees them as survival strategies. Brilliant, actually, in a way. They're coping mechanisms the child developed to try and earn or secure the connection and safety they needed in an emotionally insecure environment.
That's a much more compassionate way to look at it. So if you start seeing these patterns in yourself, what's the first step? What does McDaniel suggest for healing?
The foundation, the absolute crucial starting point is what she calls self-mothering.
Self-mothering.
Yeah, it means consciously, intentionally, giving yourself the consistent care, the attunement, the compassion, the love that you didn't receive sufficiently back then.
So becoming your own supportive parent in a way.
That's a great way to put it. Learning to tune into your own needs and respond with kindness.
It sounds like that process might involve facing some difficult feelings along the way.
Definitely. And McDaniel is very clear about this. Acknowledging and processing the grief is vital.
Grief. Grief for what?
Grief for what you didn't get. Grief for the unmet needs, the missed connection, the emotional support that wasn't there. You have to allow yourself to feel that sadness, that loss.
Why is that so important?
Because, McDaniel argues, it's through acknowledging and moving through that grief that you can actually reclaim a sense of wholeness and genuine joy. You can't bypass the pain.
Okay, so let's recap the key takeaways here. We've got the silent wound of emotional neglect having these really profound, lasting effects.
Right. And those unmet needs driving patterns in adult relationships, like chasing unsafe love and fueling that harsh inner critic.
And understanding behaviors like perfectionism not as flaws, but as old coping strategies.
Exactly. And the path forward involves self-mothering, giving yourself that care, and, crucially, allowing space for the grief.
It's a lot to think about. For you listening, maybe just take a moment. Does any of this resonate? Do you see echoes of it in your own life or maybe in people you know?
Just recognizing these patterns, that awareness, is often the most powerful first step toward understanding and eventually toward healing.
Yeah, it really is.
And that leaves us with maybe a final thought to ponder. If that inner critic's voice is, like McDaniel suggests,